we'll talk about light. Matthew 5:13, you are the salt of the earth. You. Salt preserves, purifies, seasons, creates thirst. Maybe there's some other things that you can think of that salt does. Jesus saw that it was extremely important. And I want to make the point that when Jesus said to them, you are the salt of the earth, it meant a lot more to them than it does to us, who only think of the salt shaker on the table that the doctor says don't use that. Because so many of our foods have salt in them. We don't really have to go looking for salt, and it just kind of happens automatically. But in Christ's day and in ancient times for so long, salt was a major thing in people's lives. And one thing of interest is salt was considered a covenant. And we're going to talk about that this morning. And one of the things that it was a covenant in was marriage. And as the couple were married, and they would each take their own source of salt and pour it together, which emblematic of the two of them being joined together. And the concept is, and we want to understand that as the lesson goes on, once you've poured the salt together, you can't separate it. You can't look at that bowl of salt that you both poured your salt into and say, oh, that's my salt. And she says, no, that's my salt. Because it's all been joined together. And the salt covenant in the marriage was with that intent, that the two of them become one. Now, some of you may have been to a wedding where something of this sort, maybe using sand, pouring the two together, symbol of the salt, or these kind of things. But for sure, with weddings today, we make a big fuss about a lot of stuff. We watch Hallmark movies all the time, and they do all these romantic things, getting couples together, and it's all about everything except what really matters. For instance, there's this couple from 60 years and 10 days ago who cut the cake. And isn't that neat? And it wasn't she pretty.
So I'm assuming that picture is who you're talking about.
That picture's the girl I'm talking about.
Oh, well, who's that good-looking guy?
The one whose glasses were broken, so he didn't have them on. I put that up there purposely. You make a big deal about the cake, about the dress, and now it's about what kind of a sit-down meal they're going to have and all that stuff. And they may spend as much on the wedding as they should be spending on a down payment on a house. And our wedding was beautiful. It was amazing. Sharon's mom had just gone through it 8 months before with Charlene. And then she came through again for us with the most beautiful wedding. And the high points in my mother-in-law's life to me were how she put together our wedding. It really is beside the point, but I got to tell you this. Sharon, when we went to the florist, Sharon didn't want any carnations, which is the staple flower that florists use for decorations. And Sharon said, no, everybody else has carnations. I don't want any carnations. Instead, she wanted gardenias. I'm getting it right, okay. And that poor florist, she said, I gotta use carnations. That's the main thing we use. No, what carnations? Sharon insisted, and she got her
Gardenias.
What did I say?
Carnations.
Gardenias. And Sharon's mom was financing all of this. And right up near the wedding, her mom went to the florist and said, now have we really taken care of everything? And the florist said, yeah, it's all taken care of. She said, well, if you need a little more money. No, it's all fine. And she said, well, I'm going to give you another $25 just in case you think of something you should have. Well, the florist isn't going to turn down $25. And of course, in 1962, $25 was $25.
Real money.
Yeah. And when it came to the wedding, the ladies were all amazed as they walked into the church. The florist was there and gave each lady a little boutonniere of a gardenia to wear.
Wow.
Everyone who attended our wedding got, all the ladies
Wow,
got
sweet.
flowers. And that really has nothing to do with the lesson. It's just, thrown in there for free. But my point is, you see all the stuff that we make about weddings, but the photographer at our wedding, I don't think I've ever seen it before or after, he insisted on taking this picture. Our two hands together with our new rings on. Have others of you seen where they do that?
We did it. We did it.
Well, to me it was strange, and he insisted, and I said, okay. I was being cooperative that day.
And for the rest of
And-
her life. Yes, dear.
What I want you to see here is not the wedding cake, is not the wedding dress, but that covenant that used to be with salt. Now that covenant is signaled with a ring. For 60 years and 10 days, I've been wearing that ring. Now, Sharon wore hers out. Literally, it wore through on the bottom. So she got herself another ring, and something after that, she got another one. And that bothered me. So 2 or 3 years ago, I got her ring that was literally worn through. And I went to a jeweler and said, fix this. And he did a very nice job of repairing her wedding ring. So today she still wears the ring that I gave her June 9th, 1962. To me, that's important. I have that ring on, and she has that ring on, and we have that covenant between us. It matters. The cake, I don't know, did we maybe keep the top layer for a year in the freezer? Maybe. Some people do that. I think maybe we did. Having moved away, probably not. But But you have that covenant. With this ring I thee wed. Now, I have a pet peeve. The idea that Hallmark and lots of other people spread the idea, I write my own vows and say a bunch of nothing. Oh, I love you. Well, that's nice. But you see, what makes that wedding a marriage are those rings that are a symbol of their covenant agreement between the two. Now, I suppose I'm supposed to say, well, what holds the marriage together is the love. Well, which day?
That moment.
Which moment? There are moments that, it's just... We're married. We have a covenant. The idea of breaking that would be like going to that salt and sharing and finding, if we had done that, which salt was hers and which salt was mine. You can't. They've been put together. And the word covenant or vow has been so cheapened that now brides and grooms, they write their own, and you hear, well, I haven't thought of mine, I can't figure it out, mine, why? Hey, excuse me? For better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. Those are the marriage vows. Those are what this covenant is about. Now, I know that unfortunately, some in this room, there have been times that you have been through a divorce. And if we would take the time to hear your story, and we're not going to, you would tell us how sorry you were and how unfortunate it was. And it is unfortunate. And even Jesus said, if one of the two is unfaithful, then that breaks the vow. But it unfortunately was broken. And now it's been restored. And now you have that new covenant that you live with and that you cherish even on the bad days. Did you hear about the young groom who was taking the vows, and the minister said, for better or worse? And he said, better. In sickness and in health. Richer or poorer? Richer. He thought it was a multiple question vow. No, it's all the above. And I hope with this getting across the concept of what a covenant means. Now, in the ancient times, it was quite normal, and this is the sort of thing that the local people would have understood. Glenn, if you want to come, we're going to do something together here. This was in their culture, and when he's talking about the salt of the earth, they would understand that people often carried a little pouch with salt in it that they would have for whatever business they were doing, and when people had to work together, and they would make a partnership. They would each take from their salt and mix with the other. And let's go ahead and do that, Glenn. We've got this bowl here. Okay, Glenn, you take yours back out, but leave mine.
Can't do it. I don't know which ones was mine.
Well, actually, I originally had in mind to show what happens with salt. It needs to come under the pressure. It needs to be ground down. And I hope that's showing up and life is like that. It sometimes has to be ground down. And it's not always easy. In trying to prepare for this, I got some rock salt. You know, ice cream rock salt. And I tried to grind it down. I found this instead. And once I'll stick around. So you have this salt, and we have an agreement. I asked Glenn's permission to quote him. Thursday morning we went to McDonald's, as we do most Thursdays. And after we went out in the parking lot, we were having parking lot time, talking about, solving the world's problems. And I said, having to do with all this stuff going on, I said, I really feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be in teaching this class. And Glenn said, I do too. I feel like I am here because I'm supposed to be helping you. And when I asked Glenn permission to quote him, I told him that meant so much to me. That he sees his role here from the Lord as a helper to Daryl and the ABC class. And I have ABC pasted on this crystal bowl that Sharon doesn't know I brought. And we have become very good friends. And we try to support each other. And it's really neat. We have an agreement that has brought us together. Now, I don't know if anyone is going to want to do this, but the truth of the matter is, first I need to say, that commitment is not just Glenn to Daryl and Daryl to Glenn. It's Glenn and Daryl to God and from God. And our covenants in ministry isn't really us. It's the Holy Spirit's work amongst us. And I would like to give the opportunity, if there's anyone here who would like to say, Daryl, it's not just the two of you. I'm a part of this class. I'm a part of this ministry. I want to make a commitment like that as well. And I'm a part of this. And I'm giving of myself to be a part of ABC. And I brought a little bowl of more salt. And if anyone would like to come and join the two of us, I've got little spoons here, and you can take a little bit in a spoon and put it in the bowl and say, I'm committing as well. And I'd like for you to do that, make that kind of a commitment if you so desire. We'll sing the chorus, Jesus, use me. Oh Lord, don't refuse me. And as you're doing this, you're not doing it for Glenn and Daryl. You're saying, Lord, use me. Use this class. Lord, may you be the purpose in my life. And may it be a covenant between me and you for serving. As we sing it, if you would like to, just come up and take the spoon and put it in the little bowl, and you can go back to your seat. Jesus, use me, and oh Lord, don't refuse me. For surely there's a work that I can do, and even though it's humble, Lord, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you. Jesus, use me, and oh Lord, don't refuse me. For surely there's a work that I can do, and even though it's humble, Lord, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you. Jesus, use me, and oh Lord, don't refuse me. For surely there's a work that I can do, and even though it's humble, Lord, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you. Our class is small. When we began teaching this class, it was considerably bigger, up in what was then called room 108. Can't think of his name. Who was teaching? Vern, no.
Dave Allo.
Dave. Thank you. Dave had a really great class. And things have happened since. People have died. COVID hit. People have moved. And we're not a gigantic class. Not as big as we want to. When Sharon and I went into the ministry, the church that we visited last week to celebrate our 60th anniversary was the church that we first pastored up in the hills. It was originally Woodleaf, and then we moved to Forkstown. They had just lost half of their congregation because the mill that owned the town closed and people had to leave town, so literally half the town left. Pastor left, we came to half the church, and then a year later, The town was sold and our church was sitting on it, so it was lost. And when we went to Africa, we didn't go to some big metropolis. We went to a place called Andudu. That's probably not the most prominent mission station you've ever heard of. And the Lord has used us in some of these smaller places, and I've always wanted to build it up and make it bigger. And the Lord has called us to be faithful in small things. It says, despise not the day of small things. But even in ABC, which is not a gigantic class, it's a much smaller part of New Life Community Church in Fair Oaks. But the part that we are joined together. We are making every effort that we can and being as faithful as we can because we have a covenant with Him. And what we are here in the ABC class, Adult Bible class, we're committed to Him. And our covenant is not to notoriety or popularity or big numbers. It's to Him. And it's that covenant that we have with Him. Represented by salt, where Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." It was His idea. The covenant, the salt covenant, the name comes from ancient practice. Each Hebrew person carried a small pouch of salt. When two or more men would like to enter into this type of relationship with each other, the parties to the covenant would mix their salt in a common bowl, break bread, dip into the salt, and eat it. When they were finished, they would redistribute the salt into their pouches. You see, the only way to break the covenant would be to separate each grain of salt from the others and return to the original order. Since this was impossible, the established bond had to remain forever. And our relationship with Him is forever. You are the salt of the earth. The sign of God's covenant with men. Did you know you have a covenant with Him? Well, you might recognize that a little more if you understood that the Bible is divided into the Old Covenants and the New Covenants. Oh, no, you say Testament. Same word, same meaning. The Lord has the Old Covenant or Testaments and the New Testaments. And that's with men. When Jesus emphasized the imperatives of saltiness, He was referring to the necessity of living out the covenant with God and with one another in the wilderness of this life. What kind of people are the salt of the earth people? We would like to say that we're salt of the earth, wouldn't we? We're supposed to be. We're loyal to one another. We'll die for each other. We'll refuse. Oh, maybe we should scratch this one. We will refuse to entertain malicious charges against each other. Hello? Shall we read that one again? Salt of the earth people refuse to entertain malicious charges against each other. Some of you may have another word for that.
Gossip.
Gossip. Well, I wouldn't tell you anything good about him unless it was. I wouldn't tell you anything about Glenn unless it was good. And boy, is this one good. No. You know, gossip has become such a common word. But when you put it in this terminology, malicious. We don't accept malicious talk about each other. We love one another. Their word is their bond. We accept what they say, and we accept it. They are people of one family. Aren't we one family here this morning?
Yeah.
They've come through the fire together. Well, now, I actually am using my old notes here, and I wrote that before COVID. But it's even more appropriate in 2022 than when I wrote those old notes. Salt preserves, purifies, heals. What if you have a sore and you get salt in it and it heals, what does it also do? Stings.
Yes, stings.
But it heals. So sometimes the salt may sting, but it can bring healing. Seasons. Well, yeah, that's what I have it on the table for. And Sharon says, you don't need to salt that. Well, and it also creates thirst. So if we're salt of the earth, we should be thirsty for the things of the Lord and thirsty for Him because our salt covenant is with Him. Are you a preserving, healing, saving, thirst-creating kind of person that brings good flavor into your world? I hope so. I'm thinking that my time is up and maybe we should just stop here. I think we could. Are you a preserving, healing, saving, thirst-creating kind of person? Do others wish that they could have what you have? Maybe they're a neighbor who's known you for many years and they just don't understand how you have such peace and joy. Are you creating a thirst? Brings good flavor into your world. Jesus said, He didn't say, you eat salt. He didn't say you use salt. He didn't even say you have salt. He said you are salt. The salt of the earth. The sign of God's covenant with men. Oh, would you bless the Lord this morning knowing that He's made you the salt of the earth. Is our world in a mess today?
Yep.
Yes, it is. And I don't think I'm capable of fixing all the political stuff that we may have talked about.